There's a word teenagers use now to describe charisma, and it sounds like slang, because it is. But underneath the word Rizz is something a lot older and a lot more studied than anyone giving each other Rizz ratings on TikTok realizes. What looks like natural charm is more often than not a handful of psychological mechanisms running on autopilot. Nobody's reading a manual. They're just doing what works without knowing why it works. Watch two people who click instantly, and you'll notice something strange if you slow it down. Their speech patterns start to match. Their pacing syncs up. If one leans in, the other leans in a beat later, almost like a delayed reflection. None of this is planned. It's one of the oldest documented dynamics in social psychology, and it's happening in DMs and group chats every single day, completely unnoticed by the people doing it. This first trick is called the chameleon effect, and researchers have been studying it since the late 1990s. The finding was simple but strange. When two people are getting along, they unconsciously start mimicking each other's body language, tone, and even word choice, and the mimicry itself increases how much they like each other. It's not that liking someone causes the mimicry. The mimicry itself creates the liking, almost like a feedback loop running in the background of the conversation. Now, translate that into a text thread. Someone starts using the same slang the other person just used. They match capitalization style, emoji frequency, even how fast they reply. It feels like chemistry. What's actually happening is one nervous system quietly syncing itself to another, and the brain reading that synchronization as compatibility. This is also why Rizz so often looks like adaptability rather than a fixed set of lines. Someone with genuine Rizz isn't reciting a script. They're unconsciously reading the other person's rhythm and matching it, almost like a live translation happening in real time. It works precisely because it doesn't feel rehearsed, even though the underlying mechanism is completely predictable once you know to look for it. The second trick is where things get more deliberate, even if most people still couldn't explain why they're doing it. It's the art of not replying right away, the slow fade, the deliberate half-hour delay, the scene with no response for hours. Gen Z didn't invent playing hard to get, but they've built an entire vocabulary and etiquette around it, without necessarily knowing the psychology underneath. There's a well-known study from researchers at Harvard and the University of Virginia that looked at this exact dynamic, attraction under uncertainty. Participants who didn't know how much someone liked them back reported thinking about that person more and rating them as more likable than participants who were told clearly. Uncertainty doesn't just fail to kill attraction, it can actively fuel it, because the brain keeps returning to unresolved questions the same way it keeps returning to an itch. This is the exact mechanism behind strategic unavailability. Texting back instantly, every time, removes the uncertainty, and with it, some of the pull. A slightly delayed reply, a half-answered question, a story posted without a caption explaining it. These create small gaps the other person's brain wants to fill in. It's not coldness for its own sake. It's leaving just enough uncertainty that the other person's attention keeps drifting back. The third trick is the push-pull, the tease that lands right on the edge of a compliment and a jab. You're actually kind of funny, for someone who thought that joke was good. It sounds like banter. It's actually a miniature version of one of the most powerful reinforcement patterns known in behavioral psychology, intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that makes slot machines and social media notifications so hard to put down. Steady, predictable praise is pleasant, but the brain habituates to it fast. After enough compliments, each new one lands with less impact. Unpredictable reward, mixed in with mild challenge or teasing, keeps the reward system firing in a completely different way. The compliment matters more specifically because it wasn't guaranteed. The tease creates a tiny drop in approval, and the compliment that follows creates a small spike back up. And that oscillation, repeated over a conversation, is genuinely more engaging to the nervous system than steady approval would be. None of the people using these three moves are running a calculated experiment. They've absorbed these patterns from millions of hours of watching how flirting actually plays out online. So who benefits from all of this? Beyond the individuals using it, the platforms these interactions happen on aren't neutral bystanders. Features like scene receipts, typing indicators, and delayed notification delivery all shape how uncertainty gets experienced in a conversation. And uncertainty, as the research shows, is exactly what keeps people checking back. An app that shows you exactly when someone read your message and chose not to reply is, whether intentionally or not, manufacturing the same uncertainty that keeps attraction alive in a lab study. More checking, more opening the app, more time spent, more data generated. The romantic tension isn't just a side effect of the platform's design. It's compatible with, and sometimes actively reinforced by, the same engagement mechanics that keep people scrolling for anything else. This doesn't mean the platforms are engineering people's love lives on purpose. It means the same psychological principles that make flirting compelling also make apps compelling, and the two have ended up reinforcing each other without anyone needing to plan it that way. It's worth noticing how differently this played out even one generation earlier. Before texting, uncertainty had natural limits. You'd see someone again at school tomorrow, or you wouldn't hear from them for a week because that's simply how phone calls and letters worked, not because anyone was strategically withholding anything. Digital messaging removed those natural limits and replaced them with a dial anyone can turn on purpose. The same uncertainty that used to be an unavoidable byproduct of slower communication is now something a person can manufacture on demand just by choosing not to open an app for a few hours. So, what do you actually do with this, whether you want to use these dynamics more intentionally or just want to stop being unconsciously steered by them? Recognize mimicry for what it is, a sign of rapport, not necessarily a sign of deeper compatibility. Matching energy is a real and useful skill, but it's worth occasionally checking whether you actually like the substance of a conversation or just the rhythm of it. Notice when uncertainty is doing the work that genuine interest should be doing. If the main thing keeping your attention on someone is not knowing when they'll text back, that's worth naming honestly. Attraction fueled mostly by unresolved tension tends to feel intense and turn out to be about very little once the uncertainty resolves itself. And with the tease and reward pattern, the healthiest version of it is playful and mutual, not one-sided. If the push-pull only ever goes one direction, someone consistently keeping you slightly off balance without ever fully reciprocating, that's not chemistry. That's the same mechanic a slot machine uses, aimed at a person instead of a jackpot. There's a simple test that cuts through all three tricks at once. Ask how you'd feel about the interaction if all the uncertainty were removed, if you already knew they liked you, if the replies came instantly, if the teasing always resolved into warmth. Would the connection still feel good? If the honest answer is that it would feel even better, the attraction was likely real all along. If the honest answer is that it would feel boring, the tricks were doing more of the work than the person was. What's really going on with Rizz isn't some mysterious natural gift a small number of people are born with. It's a set of very old psychological patterns, rediscovered independently by a generation that grew up doing all its flirting through a screen. Patterns that work exactly as well as they always have, just dressed up in new slang. The tricks aren't new. The only thing that's changed is how fast they spread and how many people are now running them without ever knowing their names. If you enjoy uncovering the hidden psychology behind the internet, consider subscribing to this channel. Every week, we investigate another system hiding in plain sight.